Shut up and sit down.
The Gold Coast is a large tourist town about the same size as the Central Coast. It's very similar to other major towns along the upper New South Wales northern coast, where it started out being a major holiday destination. It then turned into a major retirement location that attracted many tradies to build their homes. It developed a King's Cross style tourist strip behind the Surfers Paradise Beach. It became a globally famous holiday destination before the international property investors moved in. The amount of property speculation here is huge. This place has become a forest of apartment buildings where many of the newer ones look so uniformed and lack the subtle changes such as open windows, curtains, lights and drying clothes. This makes me doubt that many of these apartment buildings are actually occupied. To second that, there is a distinct lack of services such as supermarkets and only a couple of McDonald's, supporting tens of thousands of apartments. It would be interesting to find out just how many bedrooms there actually are in this place. The boulevard is heavily dependent on international tourists and has been hit hard by the COVID restrictions. There are many empty shops and the only services that seem to be flourishing are the massage parlours. Under normal conditions, I would expect the boulevard to be a hip and happening place, understanding its international appeal. The beach is like if Coogee was stretched some 20 kilometres, and with a bit of effort the boardwalk along the foreshore could have been renowned as the Coogee to Bondi Walk. But believe it or not, they've outlawed commercial use of the boardwalk without permission. It's all the personal trainers that make the Bondi to Coogee Walk such a place to be seen. Very few people here pay attention to the local laws. I've seen as many people carrying a helmet while riding a bike than wearing one. Also things like leading the tethered dog while riding the bike, and tons of people riding on the footpath even when there's a bike path right next to it. I'm still not sure if the people over the border have dropped a few IQ points, or just the local authorities assume that the people have a few IQ points less than the rest of the country. They seem to close off everything for any minor reasons, put a temporary fence around it and warning signs. I mean, so what if a footpath is not level or a rock may roll over it? Queensland is an authoritarian nanny state where if they put as much effort into fixing the problems as they do in forcing people to comply, I'm sure everyone would get along much better. It was a short hop from Byron Bay to the Gold Coast, so I decided to take the long road around Hindsley Dam. First stop was to check out Hastings Point, where I spent an hour waiting for the rain to pass over. I managed to get a decent brekkie burger from the Hastings Point General Store. It's like the only place in town. Hastings Point is where the sugarcane starts and in reality northern New South Wales ends. When I took a look at Tweed's Heads, it felt more like Queensland than northern New South Wales. It was an awesome decision to head over the border by the Narangba Road. It was one of the most picturesque border crossings I've seen. I just had to stop and take a photo of it. Over the border was the natural bridge at the Springbok National Park. I wanted to stop and have a good look, but being a public holiday there was just too many other people to get a good view. The first thing I noticed over the border was just how much better the condition the roads are. But what felt to be an 80 zone in New South Wales was a 60 zone in Queensland. And where in New South Wales, the country people would drive an average of 20 above the limit. The Queensland, they would only drive about 5. So I was stuck behind traffic doing 65 in what felt I should be doing 100. The accommodation is a guest house in a shipping container. It's squeaky clean, modern and stylish. Over the week I've been here, I've only met the cat, as the owners, like the rest of the Gold Coast, seem to be home by 5:30, dinner by 6 and in bed by 8:30, so off to work by 6 the next morning. I noticed this too in my walks around town, that very few people would look me in the eye and nod g'day as I passed. I haven't figured this one out, so comments below. The plan was to get the bike serviced in Brisbane as it's the last major stop before Perth. The bike needs to be serviced every 10,000 kilometres, and in the front tyre will only get me around 15,000 kilometres. Sports tyres can manage around 7,000 kilometres, whilst dirt tyres on bitumen can only manage around 5,000. I'm running on specialist GT tyres to get the extra distance, so I really wanted to get the right tyres for the trip and didn't think I could manage going past Brisbane without getting this work done. Oh, it was like trying to find a date for the high school prom. I had to contact about six different places before I found one on the Sunshine Coast willing to service the bike for me. And only one other place in Brisbane got back to me saying they're all booked out for the next 2 weeks. If you're doing the big lap in a hurry, then I strongly advise you book your bike in for a service before you leave. I think I'll contact the Perth people about 3 weeks before I get there. But in hindsight, one of the benefits of a modern online world is that I managed to renew my New South Wales registration and insurance over the internet. Having a 2-year-old bike meant that I didn't need to get a New South Wales authorised service centre to inspect it. NBN and 4G in the Gold Coast are just as good as they are in Sydney, and I suspect that'll continue through to Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. I tried registering Starlink for the address where I'm staying at in the Gold Coast, but there were too many other registered users to get an available slot. When we look at the Starlink availability map, it looks like the Gold Coast is one of the few places where there are too many users, and Starlink has ample room for improvement. Maybe there are many construction businesses here in Queensland who are using it to connect their site offices. I'll wait and see until I get to Brisbane before firing it up and seeing if it still works. The availability of Starlink currently stops at Bundaberg unless a whole heap of new satellites come online over the next couple of weeks. Maybe I should do a poll and find out how many of you think I should stop carting this damn dish around with me. Comments below. The Gold Coast is the sort of place where rich people have river access and the poor people live right behind them. The weather looks great, somewhere in the low 20s. It looks like I've got the timing for the big lap just right, and I'm still travelling on Easy Street. The only problem I've found so far road tripping on the eastern coast of Australia is the amount of beautiful places to stop and see. Queensland is beautiful one minute, perfect the next, pissing down rain the minute after that. Just wait an hour and you'll get the weather that suits you best. Next up is Brisbane via Bayou Desert and Ipswich. Hopefully I'll be able to catch up with my uncle and other cousins, or maybe that'll have to wait until the Sunshine Coast. It's been great to have the opportunity to catch up with my cousins over the past week. Thanks for following my adventures around Australia, and make sure you go out there and do something to enjoy your day.